emergency, so I don't think she got that done either before she left. So she'll get it soon. Patience. Sorry.
No problem, of course. That takes priority. So, and the recording will be great, so she can catch up on what she missed. Mark, on your end, anybody else we should wait for before we kick this off?
Oh no, let's not wait. We got let me see. Let me just at least look at the invite. I mean, the only one I would recognize as not being here is Senthil. I don't think Keong would come. I'll ping him during, but let's we can blast. Oh, he's here. There he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, welcome everybody, and I'm going to hand this quickly over to Kim since she's the expert, and she'll be taking us through the Visual Query Builder Part 1 training today. So we've allocated a couple hours, and there was an agenda in the invite, so I expect we'll adhere closely to that. Please, and I know Kim will reiterate, ask questions. This is for you guys to really be able to use independently, and so please chime in, and otherwise take it away, Kim, and thanks everyone for listening. Unless we can't hear Kim now. She was having those issues before. Can you validate you guys can hear me?
I can hear you.
We can.
Oh, good. And Kim, we can't hear you if you've started speaking. I heard her earlier. That's really strange. So let's give Kim a second. I know she had this challenge on her last training, so good old Skype or WebEx, there's always a problem for somebody. Let's see. Lynn, are you on? Okay, I guess not yet. I am not able to use our internal chat to see what's going on with Kim. I've been checking my email, but let's just keep giving her a second.
Yeah, Kim did a late night training session on the other evening. Was that yesterday? I can't remember. And we had the same problem. We ended up actually sending out a WebEx, which then part of the Microsoft people struggled for. Bottom line was it took us 27 minutes to get the meeting started.
So can you guys?
Annoying. And
this is Kim. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah,
yes.
We can.
Can hear you.
We won't jinx anything, Kim. We'll just let you get started.
Now, should I hang up? Because I'm getting feedback. I'm going to hang up here. Okay, and can you guys still hear me?
We can.
We can hear you. And I often do that. I hang up from the web, and you can still present, but you just won't get your audio feedback, which is good.
Which is a good thing. All right, that's what I was going to try. Perfect. All right, let me get all my ducks in a row here. And so we have everyone here. I apologize. I was dialing back in. So I'm going to share my screen.
This will be the moment of truth.
Exactly. So you should see a PowerPoint presentation.
And we do. What a beautiful thing.
Oh, it's a miracle. All right, perfect. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to be looking at version 12 and specifically Visual Query Builder for text. So this is the first of a couple sessions, and here we're going to look very briefly at discovery and search for query builders. Primarily, we're going to do that briefly because we covered that just last week, I think it was. But then we're going to do an overview of Visual Query Builder for text. We'll look at the operators, edit mode and test mode, and query examples, and then assign some wonderful homework. You thought you guys were past the homework stage, right? So before we begin, have folks been able to work in version 12 since we had the last session?
This is Daniel. I can speak on behalf of Dick and I. Yes, we were issued an assignment by Brooke, and we've had interactions with Visual Query Builder.
Okay, very good, very good. And what about Query Builder experience? Have you guys built with Legacy Query Builder?
We have fairly extensively.
Okay. All right. The reason I'm asking that is just to get a kind of a foundation when I go into the operators, how deep we need to go into those. But certainly, if anyone has any questions, like always, speak up and ask, and we'll certainly address those. So you should see my PowerPoint advancing as well. So now we're looking at search and discovery. Want to make sure that we're all on the right page again. And what we're going to see in search, right? Search is going to provide us the ability to ad hoc search our text files or audio, for that matter. And what we can do is, in this example, I conducted a search. This is on some training data that I have, and I looked for cable TV and searching for a signal, right? And there's this button that is the Save As button. And it may be save as, I think it's still save as in your environment. This does change, the name of it changes to build query. And what that does is it provides us the ability, if we have conducted some ad hoc searches and we go, gosh, this is really good, I want to turn this into a query, we can go ahead and do that by using this button. Again, whatever name is on it in your installation. And what it will do is it'll say, okay, you're going to save this as a query. And I think actually now it just brings you right up to provide you the ability to name the query. And it opens up Visual Query Builder. And if you'll notice, it brought both of my phrases that I was searched on and actually included the AND operator because that's the way I had conducted the search. So if I had done a multi-phrased search and added some search criteria, it would bring, for example, if I searched for cable TV and searching for a signal, and I used within so many words of each other, say 6 words, it would have actually brought that information into my query as well. So I would have seen and within 6 words, looking for searching for signal and cable TV. So again, just one of the many ways that you can get to Visual Query Builder.
So Kim, just a quick question. That save as there actually is taking your search criteria and starting a query as opposed to saving the chats into a media set.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
That's correct. So whatever logic, if I've done multiple things here, right, multiple nested operators, it's going to try to take whatever you've done in search and construct a query. And like you're saying, it's a beginning query. The cool thing is, a lot of times we go into search and we start just kind of investigating the interactions. And I may get to a point where I go, wow, that's some pretty cool stuff. Instead of having to write it all down, open Visual Query Builder and begin writing my query, I can just simply click on the Save As or Build Query button, whatever it's called in your instance. And you're absolutely right. It'll take whatever logic here and bring it into Query Builder and open Query Builder for you. So one of the other ways that you may be working in interaction analytics and decide, oh, this is interesting, I may want to build a query around it, is from Discovery and the word cloud. So if you do see something in the word cloud that's interesting and you're going, maybe I've already listened to examples from Discovery and thought this would be a great phrase to add to a query, I can right-click, and you'll notice the top option here is Add to Query. I also have the query over here in my drop zones. So I could click drag and drop, or I could right-click and say Add to Query. Now when I do that, there's a couple of things that happen. First, it opens up the new query dialog. So it says, okay, do you want to create a new query, or do you want to add this to an existing query? So let's think about that for a moment. We'll go with add it to create a new query. So I give it the name, I tell it it's chat, and then my options here are to save and continue discovery. And if I do that, what it does is it actually creates my query for me, saves it. It would add, in this case, the phrase right-hand corner to my phrase unit, and then it just takes me back to my word cloud. So if I see multiple words in my word cloud and I want to add them because I want to build a query around it, I can just keep adding those to the query, and then once again, I can click on the query, open it up, and it will have those phrase units here. Now, what it doesn't do, because we're just adding them from the word cloud, it doesn't know what logic. So they're simply going to be listed in my query. Oops, sorry, got a little click happy. It just simply lists them in my query as phrase units. And now I can begin building my logic however I need to. So again, let me just page up for a moment. I can save and continue with discovery, which again, we'll just save those as phrase units, come back to the discovery word cloud where I can continue working. Or I can say, give it either the criteria for the new query or select an existing query, and then click Go to Query. And in either case, if I click Go to Query, of course, it's going to open up the query dialog, where then I can begin building the logic. Now we like to give you lots of options. You guys understand that. We can also build a query directly from Discovery from the Query Builder link. Now again, this is privilege based. So if you have the Query Builder link at the top, we can click on it. It will open Query Builder, the same dialog that we just saw, and you can begin building your query. We can also build queries from the administration page. So if you have administration and you go to queries, you'll be able to use this dialog to create a new query or edit an existing query. So there's probably other ways that you can get there as well, but those are the four really basic ways. If you think about it, it's either from a search, from discovery, or opening Query Builder either from the link or from administration. So let's go ahead and take a look at Visual Query Builder. However we get there, all of those methods, when we click to open a query, all of them are going to open this dialog. And this is the dialog where we can either create a new query. Again, we can give it a query name. We select the appropriate target media set. Based on this selection, just like we've seen with search and with reporting, based on my selection, if this particular media set has multiple interaction types, then I'll be able to actually click down on media type and either go to audio or chat in my example. If your media set only has chats in it, then it will just default to chat. The second thing that I can do is select an existing query. So let's talk about this for a moment. This is your little sandbox. So this is either queries that you have started writing. As you'll see, they'll say in progress. Or they'll also be, and these mostly are either in progress or published, and they're your queries that you've been working on. Okay? Think of it as, again, kind of your most recent. There's another option here with this, which is select another query. And this will list all the queries that you have access to. So this will list those queries that are in progress, queries that are published, that you published, or that somebody else published. So anything that is in progress, only you will be able to see those changes. You do work in a sandbox. Anything that is published, anyone that has access rights to that query will be able to see it. Also, hidden underneath this select another query, for example, if I have started some queries here, maybe I did some tests, right, and I have all my tests out here, I may want to delete those from my list and from my Visual Query Builder. And that is also found under Select Another Query. You can delete any query that is in progress. And I'll show that to you in just a couple minutes when we get into your application. So bottom line is, if it's a new query, use this. If it's an existing query, if you see it here, you can go ahead and click on it. If you do not see it here, always go to Select Another Query, and there will be your entire list. Once I open Visual Query Builder, then I'm going to look at this navigation. Up at the top, I have the ability to go to Edit and Test Mode, and then I will also be able to close or go to the text editor. So everything that we're doing is kind of drag and drop. You can also go to the text editor and see it just in plain text. Notice, for those of you that are used to Legacy Query Builder, there's not a compile button. So automatically when we navigate between edit and test, it compiles the query and then takes you to that next mode. Next we have our query properties, and we're going to look at these in detail. But this is basically the couple of things that you filled out when you were creating a new query. What's the name, what type of query is it, etc. Then we have our phrase units. This is where we saw in search and in discovery, when we would add it to a query, it would put those individual phrases in what's called our phrase units area. Similar to the clipboard, but not exactly. Anything that is in the phrase units is considered part of your query. So it's not just a holding ground for notes and things like that. This is part of your query, and that's an important difference, and we'll demonstrate that in a moment. Then you have your expression. This is where I'm going to write my query. Couple ways you can do that. Again, you can do it through a text editor, you can do the drag and drop, and there's a cool function here that I'm going to show you, this little pen, where you can quickly edit your query line. In addition, notice that I have the notebook. In this case, the notebook is exactly like my clipboard. This is where I can write my notes. I can add phrases that I might want to add later, things that I see or hear. All right, so let's look at the query properties in detail. We have our query name, and we have our language pack, obviously for audio only. And then we have our interaction type. So again, this is a good place to look. If you are writing a query and you're not getting results or the results that you think, or your examples aren't quite right, look at the type, because that is a drop down that you have to actually select, and it will default in alphabetical order. If that target media set has audio, it will default to the audio. So you need to make sure that you actually select the right type of query that you're going to be writing. Next is my version. So very similar to your versioning in Legacy Query Builder, I have the dot releases, if you will. Those are the query versions that I have built in Visual Query Builder. And then when I publish it, it goes to the 1.0. Make any changes, 1.1, 1.2, I publish it again, 2.0. Very similar to what we've seen in Legacy Query Builder. I have my description. So here, we're used to seeing this a little bit differently, but here's the same place where I would describe what is this query supposed to return, right? What are the results? So your name gives you a great way to give people an idea of what it is the query is going to be returning. Your description allows you to add a little more detail. The target media set, again, very important that you're selecting the right target media set to write the query against. I think in your instance you have I think 2 target media sets. So you want to make sure that you're selecting the right one to write the query against. This next data set number indicates the number of files that it's going to be using in that target media set to actually select what calls, I was thinking of audio in text. Actually, it's going to run it against all of these 958 calls. So this is your media set. And lastly, the show unused items, this click on, click off, that simply will show and hide what phrase units have been used in your query. And that will become more clear when we start actually building a query of how those phrase units are used. The one thing I didn't talk about was the invert final score. So again, that is a query, right? So if I wanted to write this, for example, signal error, but then I wanted to invert the final score, meaning find all the calls that do not contain a signal error hit, then I would just simply click on the invert final score, and it would take care of all of the query things that it has to do in the background itself. So if I'm writing the query, I'm going to return results for signal error in this case. If I click invert final score, then I'd want, of course, to change the name of my query to not signal error, or whatever your standards are, to indicate that these are calls that do not contain a signal error hit. All right, so let's talk about phrase units. So phrase units, as we've seen, we can get these from search or discovery. In addition, we can simply type them in right here in the add phrase. As we're typing in to add a phrase, in this case I did thank, notice what it does is it shows me the phrase expansions. So it goes out into the ASR and it says, okay, what did I find out here that's around thank? Now, even though all of these start with thank, they don't necessarily have to. I could get words that precede thank as well. But here, it gives me an idea of what's being said, and maybe a phrase expansion that I want to use instead of just the word thank. Maybe it's thank you for contacting, thank you for calling, thank you for chatting. What are the thanks that I would be interested in for this particular phrase or query?
So Kim, just a clarification there. When you say this goes out to the ASR, so is the way to think about this that the 958 files that are in the, I guess, chats that are in the target media set, these are the phrases that are in that chat or that in that database?
You got it.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay.
So when those 958 calls were processed, meaning they were ASR'd, we took them and we put, just like you're saying, the phrases that we found in the database. Then as I began typing, these are the phrases that it found. Now, I know this is true with audio, and I believe so with chat as well. I haven't run into it, and I don't know that I paid that close attention. But this does not mean that you're limited to these. These are just showing you suggestions. It's kind of like phrase expansions. What else did I find out there with that word in it? But I don't have to select one of these, nor do I have to use one. I can write my own phrase.
And is this pattern that you're showing here true for audio as well?
Yes. So it will be true for audio.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Most things that I'm showing actually in this first part, between audio, Visual Query Builder for audio and Visual Query Builder for text, are very similar. Yep. So then I would just select one of these and click Add, or just continue typing in whatever I wanted to type in. Once it's in there, I would select Add, and it would add it as a phrase unit in my query. So let's pause a moment and talk about what else can I put in there, what else can I use with phrases for text only. So I could use wildcards. So for example, the asterisk, if I type in cancel asterisk, it will return cancellations, canceled, canceled. These are spelled differently. But this is multiple characters. So all it's going to do is it's going to match cancel, and then it's going to see what else is out there. So it will return cancel as well as these other options. So again, the asterisk is the wild card, and so it's not limited on the number of letters that it's looking after it finds cancel. The question mark, on the other hand, represents one character. So if I type in cancel, question mark, it's going to return canceled, spelled with one L because there's an ED added, but it will not return canceled spelled with two L's because that is 3 letters after cancel. So it's very specific, and it's saying, hey, you know, I'm looking for the word cancel, and then I'm allowing 2 letters after that. So however many number of question marks you use, that represents one character. Whereas the asterisk is multiple characters. Now it's not going to go beyond the word, right? Excuse me. So if I do cancel asterisk, it's not going to return cancel my. It's just going to return everything that starts with cancel, and then however many letters are in the word that it found. Does that make sense? Any questions there?
Makes total sense.
Perfect. Okay, so
we want wildcards for audio. Do you have that?
Yeah. Wouldn't that be wild? Yeah. So let's pretend for a moment that I don't actually have an expression here. So here are my phrase units. And in my phrase units, when I start adding these, we have these little glasses next to them, and that's so we can analyze those individual phrases. So this is very much like we were talking about in search in the last class. I'm going to get phrase results, which is going to allow me phrase expansions, related phrases, And then what's similar to search is that matching level. So I'm going to have that option as well. So let's take a look at each of those options. When you click on the glasses, it's automatically going to open your phrase analysis window, and you'll notice I have 3 tabs: phrase results, related phrases, and matching levels. Let's take a look at what these tabs represent. So phrase results is going to give me expansions as well as the results for the word that I typed in. Notice I've just scrolled down here. But what I can use this for is the phrase expansion, much like when I was typing it in the phrase field. It's going to show me other ways that this was used. So cable TV, I'm looking through and I say, oh, haven't had cable TV. So it might, help me understand a way to add context to my phrase to actually return the right kinds of calls. So one thing I didn't mention here, and I kick myself now for not putting it in the slide deck, is that just like with any query, you have to first define that query. What type of, in this case, chats or interactions am I looking for? Right? Do I want mentions? Is it something more specific? So in this case, if I'm just typing in cable TV, do I want mentions of cable TV? Or, gosh, I haven't had cable TV. That may lead me to the right type of calls if I'm looking for those folks that are calling in because something's wrong with their service. So as I mentioned, very, very important, just like in audio queries, defining what are you looking for? Just cancels, those that actually canceled, those that are having activation problems, or just mentions of activation, right? Product key issues or mentions of product key. So all of those things you have to consider when you're defining up front, what am I looking for? And phrase expansions will oftentimes point you in a direction that you didn't realize. Again, adding additional context. So what I can do here is if I said, that's a good phrase, I can click on it and highlight it. And if you'll notice a couple things it's showing me, it's saying my phrase expansion percentage, so it's finding this 100% of the time when it's finding cable TV. All right, again, this is a dummy set of data, so not very realistic, but what you'll see here is what percentage of the, my finding haven't had cable TV when I'm looking for cable TV. And then, is it in the first 30 words? So remember, now we're in text. So everything here is about words, not time. So, and again, these are very short text, it looks like, your chats. So it's in both the first 30 and 120 words of the call. And then you would also see if it's in the last 120 or last 30 words of the interaction. So again, don't pay too much attention to these values. They're not accurate in this case. But what you will see is the phrase expansion percentage, where is it located? Because here again, this might give you insight into, should I use a first operator or last operator to be able to better define and get to the interactions that I'm interested in. In addition, when I click on it, I'll have examples down here. So I can scroll through these and I can actually see what's happening around the chat. And lastly, cool thing here, I could replace it in the query. That means replace cable TV with haven't had cable TV. I want you to be careful using this one because what it will do is because you replace it, it will actually replace it in your analysis as well. So typically I don't replace, I add it to the query, and then because I may want to go ahead and do some additional investigation using just cable TV. Now I may remove it at the end of the day from my query. But right now I still want to look at what other phrases are in this list. So again, replace will replace, meaning it'll change it here as well as I'm in my analysis. My add to notebook will put it in my notebook so I can use it later, right, when I'm writing my query. Or my add to query will simply just add it as a phrase unit, just as we saw in search or discovery. So any questions there? Again, phrase expansions, a great way to find out how things are being said to add context. Or I guess being written. Yeah.
The list at the bottom, I guess, what do you call that? I guess top results. Those look like sentences? I'm just trying to understand. Is that how we should think about it? It's going to just put whatever, it's going to give you the sentence, or is it a paragraph, or is the whole chat available? How does it pick?
Yeah. So this is not going to give you the whole chat. It's going to give you where the hit occurred. And it's a really good question. When we get into yours, as you can see, these are all the same chat, just copied over and over again. When we get into yours, we'll see if the period is causing it to stop. I'm not sure what exactly it's causing to stop there. So when we get live, I'll just make a note to make sure to look at that, remind us. Great question.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep. All right. I would hate to say that it's the period simply because we really don't have a good example here to actually look at it. But you're absolutely right. When I click on a phrase up here, what it's going to return is something around it. I know it is a snippet. It's not the entire chat, but to your point, what's causing it to stop? We'll look at that. So the next tab that we have when we're analyzing our phrase is related phrases. So the cool thing about this, again, just like in Discovery, if you've used Discovery at all, related phrases shows you what else is happening around the particular phrase. So I'm looking for cable TV. What else is happening around on the chats? Now, by default, the setting, you can change that under settings, but the setting is, the proximity is set to 30 words. So that's 30 words either before or after. It's saying what phrases have I found, and again, to your point, these are phrases that have been placed in the database during the ingest process. So it's what are the phrases that I've found that are 30 words on either side, and it's the most frequently said phrases. And notice I can change this. So the cool thing about this is if I'm looking for something that's happening close together, right? I want to know when they're saying their product key is not working, what's happening right after that. So what I could do is go under settings and I could change this 30 words to maybe, what's happening in the next 10 words right after it. Meaning, how are we replying when they're having this issue? So again, you can go in and change this. It looks like, I never noticed this either, it looks like you can go from 1 word either side to 3,600 words. And what it will do is it'll calculate it and show you the, again, the branching of the related phrases. Now, an important note here, once I set this in my settings, it stays that way until you change it. And I have found myself that I've forgotten that I changed it for something very short because I was looking specifically for the phrases right around particular phrases. So, and then when I went into something else, another query, I'm going, why aren't I getting, good related phrases? And it was because I had set that in settings. So I had to go back to settings and reset it to another value. So just remember, whatever you set it to, it stays there until you set it again, which is a good thing most of the time. So once again, I may find some interesting things here, and I can click on any of the phrases, either in the related phrases tree or over here in the list. And I can add them to the notebook, which again puts them in my clipboard for me, right? So I can do something with later. Or I can actually add it to the query. Again, all it's going to do, it's not going to apply any logic. It's just going to add that as a phrase unit that then I can use when I'm building my query. So we try to give you a lot of options when you find something during this analysis phase, during looking at these phrases, ways to capture that particular phrase without having to write it down or remember it. So remember, your notebook and your query are almost always available. And also remember, just because I add it either to my query or to my notebook doesn't mean I have to use it. It just means it's going to, add that phrase unit there so I can then investigate and see if I want to use it.
Hey, Kim, sorry if you mentioned this.
Nope.
On that previous slide, what do those percentages, the 100% mean there?
That is APS, which in this case is the name of my company. It's the abbreviation for it. Of the 60, so cable TV was found in 63 of the interactions. And of those 63, 100% of them also included APS. Again, you're going to see real values out here. I didn't notice this when I was actually capturing the screens, but because of my data set, it's just a bunch of chats recopied that it's just showing that all of these things are in all of the 63 interactions. So again, this might provide you insight into if 50% of the interactions looking for cable TV also say no signal, that's an indicator there that if I'm looking for cable TV and say no signal, that I'm going to find them in 32 of those calls or 31 of those calls.
For some context, Mark, and I don't know if this will hold true unilaterally, in what little investigation I've done, the highest I've seen has been about a 30% correlation, with most being lower.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, thank you for that. And then the last tab, which is a really cool tab because it is that matching level. And what this does is it actually shows you some of the things I was trying to describe in search and show you some examples. This actually shows you very, very quickly. So when you come in, it is at 0, so matching level 0, which we know means the exact match. And so if you'll notice, I'm looking for cable TV, and once again, cable TV is highlighted here, and so you'll see they are exact matches. And you'll see 63 files hit. And this is just simply 7% of my calls hit on the exact match of cable TV. Now then, remember we have that kind of fuzzy factor. So if I look at 1, the more fuzzy matching, and we talked about this at the last session, and I do want to mention that what this is, and someone mentioned it, I don't remember who, I don't recall who, but it's saying that it is a one-letter change, but if I have multiple words in my phrase, it could be a one-letter change in each of those words. So it's not just one letter across the board, it's one letter in each word. So you'll see, I looked for cable TV. When I look for more fuzzy, I'm getting able to, which that's cable, one letter change, and to is TV, one letter change. So you have to really be careful when you're starting to use phrases looking at this fuzzy matching. This checkbox, when you have it clicked on, it will actually show you just the net difference. So I was looking for cable TV, so show me the ones that are at this matching level. So it's not going to show me cable TV, it'll show me those that are at a different matching, at the one matching level. If I go to least specific, then it's the two letters, but as you can, it's going to again be in each of the words, so we can really get off track really quickly here using the least specific. So I'm looking for cable TV, and I'm getting results for unable to. But again, the cool thing here is I can go in here and I can look at, okay, if I'm looking for this particular phrase, show me at each of these levels what's going to be returned. And then I can make the judgment, is that a good thing or not? We have our prefix length just like we did in search. So again, this is how many letters starting from the beginning have to match exactly, and then it would apply the fuzzy factor. So in this case, I said 0, which is why I'm getting unable. If I said prefix length is 1, then I would get cable or any changes to the word cable, as long as the C is there. So the prefix is how many letters starting at the beginning must match, and then apply the fuzzy factor. An important note here, I think I have it, yep. So when I click on the matching level, I'm going to see the examples. Now this is very important because at the bottom of this dialog is finish, or you have the X up here. And whatever matching level you have highlighted, that's the matching level that is going to be applied to your phrase. So I always come in, I look at the matching level, and I click around and I see what does 0, 1, and 2 actually do to my result set. But I have to remember that if I want it set on 0, I need to go back up and ensure that 0 is highlighted when I click finish or when I X out of this dialog. Because whatever is highlighted, that's what's going to be applied to that specific phrase. Very, very important. I'll show you once we get back into edit mode a couple places where you can actually check that and see if you accidentally applied any of the matching levels. Oh, I'm going to show you that right now. So here are my phrases. Cancel my account, cancel my membership, cancel my subscription, like to cancel, etc. So we know that on any of these, I can go in here and I can analyze them and look for perhaps phrase expansions, related phrases, or change my matching level. Underneath settings, you have the option to expand or collapse all of these, or you can expand them one at a time just by using, it'll be a plus or a minus to the left of the phrase. I can look at the matching level and the prefix level. I can look at where it's used. I can look at to automatically show the phrase analysis. So those are options that I can set. Oops, I'm sorry. I was trying to close that dialog. When I actually set them, notice that I had chosen to expand all. I see my query unit name. I see my matching level. On this one was 2. My prefix was 0. So on this one, I actually did click on the 2 and then closed it. So again, this is one area where you can quickly go in and see if you applied any matching levels. And sometimes you'll want to, right? One word about this, and for anyone that's actually gone in and looked at any of the visual query builders or played around and built, what you're going to see is this is the phrase that I typed in, cancel my account. And what it does is it creates a variable name for each phrase. And it simply puts underscores in between the words. So anywhere there's a space, there'll be an underscore. So when I write my query, it's actually going to use the variable name to write my query. It'll say cancel underscore my underscore account equals, in quotes, my phrase, cancel my account. And that's why you see those query unit names. Again, here's where I can quickly, instead of going under settings and expanding all of them, I can click on the plus just to expand this one phrase unit to see information about that phrase unit. When I begin building my query, I'm going to come over to my expression area. So I have the phrase units, all my phrase units that I want to use in my query. And I can add the expression. Again, this is a variable name. And click Add. In this case, I put in EXP and clicked Add. And what it will do, it will then provide you an area. You'll see this one with the dotted lines, drop item here. It will allow you to drag and drop operators from the operator list, and then you can drag and drop your units from the phrase unit list to build your query. So for those of you that have, again, written audio queries, you may have used nesting to nest operators. You cannot nest operators here. You will have to define expressions for any kind of combination that you want. So we'll look at that in more detail. But your expression equals, in this case, it's an AND statement, searching for a signal and cable TV. And if you'll notice, they will be truncated here. If you hover over any of these items, they will be displayed as a tooltip. So you may start off dragging and dropping or not, right? It just depends on, I think, what you're doing and if you're using a mouse or your touchpad, how good you are at that. So one thing that you can use is this pen right here. And what that pen will do is, for this specific line, it's going to bring up, it's going to show me my expression name. So here's where I can edit it, right? I can change my expression name. It shows me which operator is used. Again, I can change it. And then it shows me which phrases that I have from my phrase unit list, what phrases I've used with this specific operator. I can click Add to add more phrase lines if I want. And then simply dropping down the arrow and selecting which one I want. So what I like about this, I've started using this personally, and it is just a preference. I've started using this a lot, especially if I'm doing a simple OR statement, because if I have 6 phrases, let's say, I can just add 6 lines, And every time I drop down and use a phrase, the next drop down will remove that phrase. So I'm never going to use something accidentally twice. It only provides me the ability to add things that are still available in the phrase unit list that have not been used. So that's a cool thing about going in here and using this. And again, I've just found it faster. And for reading it as well, because, you know, cancel my is all it's going to show in my list. I'd have to hover over each one of those, which works perfectly fine, or I can just open up from the edit and see what the query line actually says. Cancel my account, my membership, my subscription.
Kim, would like to know what. Yeah, would like to know, is there any way if I have to make a query based only one phrase? Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Yes. You want a query with just one phrase?
Yes. So without an operator, can we do it?
Yes. I'll show you how. It's much easier to show you than to explain it. And thank you for the question, because it actually shows you, it's a great example of how the phrase units are actually considered part of the query. So I just made myself a note. When we get into the application, I'll certainly show that. Great question. Mm-hmm. So let's take a quick look at the operators. Again, for those of you that have written audio queries, the operators are the same, except whenever we're talking about, you know, optional parameters, we're now talking about number of words as opposed to length, number of seconds. So the AND is going to return all interactions where all phrases exist, requires 2 or more phrases, and it has an optional word count parameter. So if I'm looking for, you know, pay my bill, pay the bill, pay a bill, we know in audio we can just put pay my bill and it's going to capture all of those. But in text, it's looking exactly for what I've typed in. So now I can say pay and bill within 3 words of each other. Remember, in the AND order doesn't matter. So I'm going to get pay my bill, all those examples that I just mentioned. I would also get anything that says bill pay. Okay. Another example, and this time I'm not using the optional word count parameter, and so I'm looking anywhere in my chat that they're asking to cancel the account and that we're providing a cancellation number. Again, understanding how your chats and how your process is. If they want to cancel, for example, a subscription, do we provide them a cancellation number, right, or some kind of indicator that it was canceled? So this would be a good way to find out if actual cancels occur. The before operators is exactly like the AND, except now I'm going to enforce sequence. So let's go ahead and look at my example. This is really more around audio, but I'll use it. Before 5, so within 5 words of each other, I need to see, thank you for contacting, and how can I help you? Okay. In this case, because I'm using the before, this first phrase has to happen first. So when it's going out and it's finding results, when it finds thank you for contacting, then it looks in the next 5 words for how can I help you to begin. So forcing the sequence. We do have the and not operator. again, requires 2 or more phrases, so it's looking, in this case, I'm looking for mentions of cell phone, but not when they're talking about a cell phone number. So here's my cell phone query. It's and not _5. Look for cell phone, but not when I see the word number within, again, 5 words of each other. Remember, this is part of the and family, so the order does not matter. The or, which is going to be primarily, I think you'll use the or and the and when writing text queries. So the or, again, any phrase exists, return it as a result. So again, I'm going to close my account, cancel my service. Either one of those exists, I'm going to go ahead and use the or. So here, just like in audio, we have to think about our phrasing. And if we just type in the word cancel, it's going to do a great job, right? It'll bring back all of those chat instances where the word cancel exists, or Windows. But, that's in so many. What am I really going to do with that intelligence, right? So I want to be very thoughtful when I'm writing my queries to write queries that are going to return a result set that then I can do something with, right? Why am I investigating it? Am I looking at what questions my customers are chatting about? Am I looking for agent responses? What is it? Or am I looking just for instances to see, hey, why are people calling in about their product key? What problems are they having? So just understanding, again, what is the intent of my query is very important. Then we have what are called timing. So we're going to see this when we get into the application. You actually drag over timing, and what it does is it provides you the ability to select first, not first, last, or not last. And then again, you specify the number of words. So in the first, maybe this is an intent. We're going to see that as well. If you're looking for just instances of activation, that's one thing. But do you want to know if the chat started because, that was the issue the customer was chatting about first? So I might look in the first 50 words, right? And again, this is you have to understand how your chats are saved. So I know, what is in my typical quote-unquote greeting of the chat, right? How many words is that? So I need to make sure I don't set it too short, so I exclude everything, but I don't want to set it too long because I'm looking for intent. So again, first 10 would again return interactions where close my account occurs in the first 10 words. Not first, just like the not first in audio, it's going to look everywhere else except the first number of words that you specify. Any of the timing, they are called timing, but any of these operators do require the parameter, so it will require the word count parameter. And then again, you have the last and not last as well. And what that looks like, when you pull over timing, it comes up and it says, okay, configure your operator. We don't list all of those operators out there, we just call it timing. And in this drop down, it's must or must not occur within the first or last number of words. So if I say must occur in the first 50 words, then it's a first. If I say must not occur in the first, then it's a not first. And the same thing for the last. So I've mentioned this, and I want to say it again because it's so important. is you need a good definition of what are you looking for, right? What types of chats are you trying to return as results? What are you going to do with those, just like in any other problem solving? Do you want these to occur, just other things to think about. Do you want them to occur anywhere in the interaction? I don't care where they're talking about their product key not working. I just want to know that. Or are you looking for, as I have in quotes here, caller intent, right? So only look in the beginning of the interaction. So as an example, if I'm looking for activation issues, right, one of the things that I need to do first is determine, well, what phrases would I use? And I could use discovery to help me understand this. I can use search to help me understand this. Or I can go into Query Builder and let phrase expansions, related phrases, and looking at chat examples help me understand it. So there's different, many ways that you can approach it. I mean, I know that, people might chat activation failed or can't activate or trying to activate. Everything is around the word activate. So we would need to think too, well, what are some other phrases that would indicate issues with activation? I don't know. Again, these are business cases. Is it product key already in use? Would that be an activation or an indicator of activation issues? Product key is invalid, right? And some of the things that, of course, would work here are what are the errors that your product provides when they're trying to use an invalid activation code, right? Because those are the things that the customer is going to say, my screen is saying product is already in use, or product key already in use. And here, right, this would
Jim,
be
this
a
is
simple...
Lynn. So, in audio, we've always said that it's hard to capture error codes, especially numbers and letters. Is that less of a case in chat?
So as long as they're, yeah, absolutely, as long as they're typing them in, because if they type in error code 508, you can type in error code 508 without having to spell it out. We can look for numbers.
Awesome. So I just wanted to point that out to the team who's building it, because we've always cautioned you not to do that before in audio, and that's still the case. But with chat, it's a little bit different, so you might want to consider that.
Yeah. So again, you would have to think of... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say we have right now. It's running into some issues that hopefully we'll be looking into.
Yep.
And I just joined again. I'm sorry, this is Brooke. So Kim, I believe I forwarded you that note about the Windows 10, and I may have missed your prior conversation, but I would think that was the question around using numbers in text. And it sounds, Kim, like you're saying yes, you should be able to. But
yes, you can. And I actually did it. I did it on the Microsoft system last time when we did search, and I wrote queries with it. So I'm not sure what is if it just needs the services to be turned off and back on, or what's causing that issue. But you're right. Right now, when you try to use like Office 365, which is what you would type in, or Windows 10, right, 10, that's what you would type in, we're getting an error when we try to build a query with that. But absolutely you can. So that is something that's being looked at on your system.
perfect, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. And Lynn, back to your point of the error codes, right? It's what is your process, right? If your agent is asking, what is the error code that you see on your screen? People are going to take exactly what they see on their screen and type it in most of the time that way. So if you do say, error code 305, that's what you can type in, and absolutely it will return it. Barring any misspellings, of course. And that is the one thing that we have to remember about text is if we use that matching level 0, it's an exact match. So if somebody transposes letters or anything like that, that's where we could run into we're not returning those chats because it's not matching. So after I'm just going to page up for just a moment. So after I've written the query, then I could go to test, and in test, again, it's going to take my query, run it against my files. In this case, I have almost 10,000 files, and it's going to show me those hits. So cancel my subscription, cancel my membership. This is just an OR statement, and this is one of the things that I wanted to show you from what the query looks like. Again, here are the phrases that I typed in, and it creates a variable for each phrase, and then it uses those variables in any of the statements with operators. One more thing I want to point out here is notice this tilde2, comma 50, comma 0. What that is it's telling me that's matching level 2. It's going to give me up to 50 combinations. That's just a default setting. And then I have 0 prefixes set. So here again, if I come in and I'm getting weird results, I can look at the query text right in text view, and I can see if I've accidentally set a matching level, or perhaps indicating that my matching level is set too high because I'm getting strange results. So one other thing when we're in here and we're looking at the query results, in audio you're used to dispositioning and dealing with thresholds and all of those. You don't have that in text. In text it matches or it doesn't. Here's what matches. You can you notice that the files hit is 533. Now, so let's look over here at my query results. Again, in audio, this is much different. In text, I don't have, again, the idea of a threshold. So all this is telling me is I have 2 versions, okay? But neither have been checked into Interaction Analytics. In my second version, I have 533 hits. And it's out of, if we look right up here, I searched almost 10,000 files, and therefore it's 5% of my calls or my interactions. Okay. This just simply tells me how many files it didn't hit on and what percentage. These are not indicators that your query is good or bad. These are just indicators of what the actual results are for running this query against your target media set that has been defined.
Is there any kind of rule of thumb around certain files hit or certain percentages that you would want to target for?
No, because it really depends on what you're looking for, right? If I was looking for Windows 10, that's going to be in a whole lot of my interactions. Where if I'm looking for something that doesn't occur that often, it's not going to be. So it's really a matter of what are you searching, and again, this is just an indicator of how many calls were or how many interactions were hit using this specific query. And so there's not really a percentage or precision or anything like that, as we're used to kind of in audio. This is just giving you pure facts of how many interactions were hit with this query. And it really does depend on what you're looking for as to what these percentages should be.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. wish the answer was yes, but because it sure is nice to know what you're targeting. But again, it just kind of depends on what it is that you're looking for. So before we go into the application, just one more thing, and I know we've covered a whole lot, but when we go in, I've got some examples to show and answer those couple of questions in real life. You can always go back to a previous version of the query simply by highlighting the version and clicking load, and it will load that query. So, maybe I did a test here where I ran this same query and I only looked in the first 120 seconds, right? And then maybe I ran it again looking only in the first 50, or not seconds, sorry, words. And maybe I ran it again looking at only in the first 50 words. So, I'm trying to play around with what is that first threshold that I should put in there? What is that number of words? And so if I say, 120 was the right one, I could go back to the version that has final 120, click load, and it will just become my current version. Once I'm happy with it, I simply click publish, and it publishes right in Interaction Analytics, where we could then see it in the query list. And just like Audio Query Builder, when I publish it, only I will have access rights to it. This is assuming no one has super user rights, right? I would have access to it because it's my query, and I would go in and I would give others access rights to it so they can either use it in a session, or if they have full control, they could actually edit it, make changes, and publish it again, and overwrite mine.
And I assume, like, in Legacy, you can only utilize a published query after the session has been re-ingested, correct?
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing changes from an ingestion standpoint. These are just queries. They have to be associated to a session in order to generate results. Once you change them, you have to reprocess the session if you want it to apply to all audio, or if you just want it day forward, you can just check it in and it will, start and stop the session, and it will begin processing from that point on.
Excellent.
Same rules apply. Same rules apply. Yep. All right. I don't know what that is. So here we are in your application. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on Query Builder. Now, this morning the system was running slow. It seems to be running much better now. If it does lag, we'll write one or two queries as examples, but may not spend too much time here. So, I'm writing with Kim at the beginning just so I can find them very quickly, and I can delete them off of your system because these are just for training. So again, my idea here is that I'm going to write this query, and I'm going to look for instances of people downloading Office. It's very generic. I just want Office download chats. People are talking about downloading Office. Now, there's a lot of different ways that they could say this. So I'm going to take a very easy approach and see if it works. Again, I select my target media set, so you're going to want all calls, all chats. And then here again, because this particular target media set contains audio, I have to remember to select either audio or chat as my query type. So I'm going to select chat and click OK. All right. So now I'm here. I see it's a chat query. I haven't done anything with it. I see my data set is actually that 10,000 files. I also can put my description, right? Mentions of Office downloads. And then I can start. So here, maybe I can imagine somebody saying, you know, they're trying to download Office. So let's see what my phrase expansion, I'm going to give it just a minute here. As I typed in Office, it will populate all the times that it's seen Office in there. I'm probably going to get like Office 365, all those good things, Microsoft Office. If I don't want to wait for it, I'm just going to click Add, and then I'm going to actually I'm going to put in download. So I have two words here. And again, I can go to analysis. And again, if this is taking a long time for it to populate here, it may be that our phrase analysis will take some time too. But let's give it a shot and see what happens. So all I did was I clicked on the glasses, and it brings up my phrase analysis window. First thing it's trying to do is populate my phrase results. So as it's doing this, and we have notified them that the system is running slow, and I know they're looking into it. I think we were running out of memory. So again, it's going out and it's saying download, which is a very short word. Phrase expansions. Hopefully I'm going to see maybe something about Office download, maybe not. We'll see what it brings back. Then I could go to my related phrases and my matching levels. In my example, I know what I'm going to do just right off the bat is I'm just going to and those two together, because again I can imagine a lot of different ways that they're talking about Office and downloads, right? I'm trying to download Office. I'm downloading Office 365. 365 is downloading, right? There's just so many different ways. So in order to capture those, I'm just going to use the two words that happen most of the time, and I'm going to and them together. Yeah, this is... Let's see if I exit out, if I'm able to write my query. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to write my result, and I'm going to add it. And then notice it says, okay, that's my variable name, result. Here's where you can drop your operator. So you'll notice that the bar is red, and that's because it doesn't know what it needs to do yet. I've added a line, but I haven't included any operators. So in this case, I'm going to just simply click, drag, and drop and. When I do so, it says, okay, do you want to use the timing component? In this case, the number of words. And I'm going to say, yep, I want to use this, and I want to look when they're up to 6 words apart. You'll notice this is optional, but you'll also notice if I have 0 in there, I can't click on yes. So it's saying, do you want to include the time component? So if you do not, meaning you want to write an and statement without any word boundaries, you have to click no. If you want them, then you say how many words, and you click yes. So now it's going to say, and within 6 words, what do I want to do? I want to look for download, and I want to look for Office. And again, order doesn't matter. You'll notice my bar turned gray because it says, okay, that's valid. And now I can go right to test. One other thing I want to show you here is if I click on the little pencil, again, this is where I can change my expression name, my variable name. I could actually even change my operator here, the number of seconds, or what phrase units I'm using. In this case, I'm just going to say this is good, and I'm going to go from edit to test. It compiles the query, and then it returns me results. So notice that I get 321 hits where I'm finding download and Office within 6 words of each other. So this is another thing that that we've noticed is it's returning the same chat multiple times. I don't know if these chats are in the system multiple times or what it's doing, but we've reported that as well. But notice it says download Office, or it says, okay, I think it's being downloaded. Is this the Office you are trying to download? So again, Office and download, very close. Another example, yeah.
Sorry, it's Brooke. I just wanted to jump in for the team. I think Danielle and Dick know this, but that what we've discovered is that we are seeing these multiple phrases here, but that when you do search and in other places, that we don't see the return of multiple phrases. So it's just isolated here, and then from an analysis perspective, we don't think it'll have a big impact since it's not multiple counting the same phrase. It's giving it an accurate count. So that part's good.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, so what it's doing, and you can see that the files hit, it tells you 321, but if you'll notice it says showing items 1 through 50 of 1,300. Okay, and that's because it is listing those multiple times, 4 times. But you're absolutely right. When you run your query, remember all we're doing is we're in testing phase. We're in our sandbox. When I actually publish this query and run it, when I come in and either filter using search, I'm going to get the right hits, or in reporting, because in the database it's correct. It's just a matter of showing right here in this Visual Query Builder. Thank you, Brooke, for pointing that out.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So let's say for now I'm good with this. I'm going to go ahead and just publish it. So I publish it. I could have gone back to edit mode. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. And when I publish, one of the things that it does is it comes back and it says, okay, do you want to go to your queries list? So that would be taking you to administration, where I could then give people access to my query, or I can include it in a session, etc. Or do you want to go back to get started? I'm going to go back to get started and write another query. Okay, and in this case, I'm going to write one, and I'm going to show you the example of how to write a query with just one phrase. So again, I'm going to just put my name so we kind of can find them. So I'm going to make this a chat query. Always remember to check that and click OK. Remember to look at your target media set and look at your media type. Once again, it brings it back. And I'm just going to write in cancel my subscription. And that's a hard word for me to spell. I don't know why. I think I've got it right. And I'm going to add subscription. All right. If I want a one-phrase query, as I mentioned earlier, it sees the phrase units as part of the query, not a clipboard. So if I actually go to the text editor, I am going to see, hopefully it will open, I'm going to see one line in my query, and it's going to say cancel my subscription equals, in quotes, cancel my subscription. Looks like it's not going to show me that. So this would be the way. I'm going to go ahead and just go to test. Oh. Were you getting a validation error when you tried doing this earlier?
Okay.
Yep.
You were? Huh.
Yes, with the single phrase I was.
That's exactly how you should write it, because the text editor, you'll notice you have one line in the query and it is the phrase. So that is something we definitely need to report.
Okay.
So let me, and text editor is just a toggle. So let me just try something here. This should not work, but it was working. It was kind of a bug that was working. Let me see if I can go to test from here. Yeah. Well, that's good. They fixed that. Before you were able to just add one operator or one phrase here. But yes, you're absolutely right. If you have just one phrase and you go to test, that becomes your query.
You were able to toggle back and forth between the text editor?
Yes, it took a while.
Okay, because, yeah, no, it doesn't for, like, I haven't had any success doing that. I don't think Daniel has either. Okay.
Huh.
So that's how it should be working. That's good to know.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. And then you'll notice, for example, cancel my subscription, I have this result. Let me just show you one thing that the, oh, now that I've got this in here, let me get rid of my result equals. I can actually edit from here. I don't know if it's going to allow me to go back. I may be at an impasse with this query. Let's see. It does. So if for example, I've added a line here, and let me just do that again so you see it. And let's say I've added the or, and let's say, I really did just want one phrase as my query. Notice I can't delete this line because this now becomes, quote unquote, the last line in my query, and so it's ready for you to put something in it. And so in the text editor is the only place that I could go and say, I no longer want this line, right? I do want this to be a one-phrase query which just says cancel my subscription. And then it'll allow me to, this is the first time I haven't seen this work, so I'm not sure what's going on here. It doesn't like what I've done, but that is the way that you do that. I'll call all chat, still in chat. The other thing that you'll notice is, and these are kind of little things you've got to get used to from a user's perspective. Notice I can't delete my cancel my subscription. Right, my trash can is disabled, and that's because right now it again is seeing this as the only line in your query. So the first phrase that you add, you can't delete, but as I go and actually, let's do cancel and subscription. Because one of the things when you're, and maybe let's see if I can analyze the word cancel. I might just jump out to my training box real quick since we're having some performance problems right now. I'm going to let it go for just a moment because this is where we're going to get to the example of the phrase expansion for the showing those examples. So let me let it go. Excellent. So here I'm seeing cancel subscriptions, right? Let's look. So to your question of what's stopping it, I'm going to have to investigate that because it's certainly not the period, right? We've got multiple punctuation in here. Maybe this whole thing is part of the chat, and then here in my end I cannot process the sale because of the auto renewal. All right, so this is all the agent, and then maybe they click send, so it's maybe going to show you the entire piece of that turn, whether it be the agent or whether it be the customer. But I will double check that and just make sure to get you back an answer. That's my guess right now, is that this will show you the complete turn that contains the hit. Does that make sense from what we're seeing here?
It does. I don't know if you had a question earlier about it, Kim, because I think one question we've had is that from the ingestion from Microsoft of the chat transcript, we've seen some truncation. So is it that, or is it that we would only be seeing one turn in this window?
Yeah, you should. This is just an example, so it's just going to show you part of the query of the chat. It's not going to show you the whole thing. It is just part of it.
That does make sense.
Yeah. So just reading them and looking down, it looks like it is the turn. So if it doesn't come with my current software, I'd like to cancel the membership. Right? That would be the customer saying they want to cancel. So, and what I was going to show here is there's several ways people are talking about canceling the membership or the subscription, and some say, for example, I'm going to click on the cancel the office and see what else it's saying. So this is actually the home program. Office home use program. So again, coming in here and just looking at one short word can give you some indicators of what's happening around that word to help me build context. And it does look like this is a turn, but again, I'll just verify that. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and again, either finish or X, both of them do the same thing. And if you'll notice, cancel my subscription, again, was the first thing that I typed in, and I still can't delete it, even though I have more phrases in here. And that's because now it sees more phrases. It's still using that as my query. So I need to actually write an expression. So I'm going to say cancel equals. And here I'm going to use the and statement again, and I'm going to say within 6 words. I think I did some little bit of testing here. I'm going to grab cancel, and I'm going to grab subscription. And now notice that because I have a valid query line, I can now actually click and delete cancel my subscription. So I'm not going to, because I want to show you what it does, but best practice is going to be, if you don't use the phrase out of the phrase unit, to go ahead and delete it, because when we go to test, you'll notice I have cancel equals cancel over here, but I also see cancel my subscription. Because it was a phrase unit, it's still seeing it as part of my query, even though, just like in the real world in audio, right, the last line in the query is your query line. So even though I say within 6 seconds I want to see cancel, or 6 words I want to see cancel and subscription, cancel my subscription is never referenced, but it is still in my query. And that's why I say best practice is going to be to delete it out, just so when you're looking at these queries, for example, in search, that it won't be confusing.
Should that have produced a compiler?
No. No. You do not have to use all of your phrase units. You can leave them there. Maybe you're doing some testing and you just want to leave them there. Before in Legacy Query Builder, we'd have to comment them out or copy them to clipboard, that kind of stuff. So here, it's not going to give you a compile error. It's simply going to include it in your query.
So, yeah, this is a good topic. I'm trying to read so the cancel to phrase combines cancel and subscription. Presumably the and 6 would find a phrase cancel my subscription.
That's correct.
Right. So the cancel my subscription phrase is cluttering the query, or is also producing results?
It is not producing results. It is not ever referenced, so it is just sitting there. And you could do this in audio, right? If you created a variable and never referenced it, it would just sit in your query. And that's the same thing that this is doing. So it's not generating results, and I kind of like the way that you phrased it as cluttering, because it just makes it harder to read and to decipher, well, what the heck is my query looking for, right? In this case, I happen to capture it because I use the word cancel and subscription in my and statement, but this could be Windows 10. It could be anything. Could be any phrase.
Right. Okay. Well, that was my question. So if that was play with my rubber ducky.
Yep, you would see it.
That would not ever produce a result?
Correct.
Because, yeah, I guess this is the... so I guess by inference, I'm just trying to understand this, that last statement, cancel to,
yep,
is the final query.
Correct. Correct. Last line of my query is my result line.
Do you?
And so I would read it from the bottom up, right? I would say, okay. And 6, I'm looking for cancel. What is cancel? Well, it's looking for the word cancel. And what is subscription? Well, it's looking for the word subscription, and they have to occur within 6 words of each other. I never reference this particular line.
Okay, so
I guess there.
Maybe it might be.
Go ahead.
Maybe it might be.
I think what you're saying is that, I mean, seems pretty important. The last line in the query is the result line. So if I took line 1 and moved it to be the last result, then the only thing I'd look for is the word would be cancel. All the rest would be clutter. True?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
True.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Yep.
Sorry, Dick, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it might have been helpful to show a to-expression query. So that might have been an easier way to illustrate that. because then you'd see how it would work. Presumably, Visual Query Builder is going to nest that so that you'd then be able to see how that should flow. But I don't know, maybe that wouldn't be useful.
So I'm not understanding. Oh,
right. So you have two expressions. So you've got like an or. So say instead you want to say subscription or renewal, and then you did cancel and the previous expression. Can you still do that? I haven't tried to nest expressions.
Yeah, so you can't nest them, but yes, I can reference them, and I'll show you. I understand what you're saying now, so yep, I'll show you that. So let me go back to edit mode, and let me remove this cancel my subscription, and go back to test. And what we're going to see is we get the exact same results because we didn't change anything, right? We get the exact same results, 27 files hit. Because that cancel my subscription was never being referenced. Once again, if I go back to edit and I put in something that's going to hit Office 365, right? Oops. Oh, crap, it's not. Just put Office. It's not going to let me do the 365. So now when I go to test, once again, I'm going to get the exact same result set because Office is never being referenced in my final line. So here I still get the 27 results. You'll notice there's Office 365 all over the place, and it's not being hit because I never reference it in my query. So if it is not referenced, it is not going to be used. And the way you can tell that very quickly in edit mode is by the trash can. So these are disabled because these phrases are already being used in my query line. This is the only phrase that I can delete, meaning that's the one that is not being used anywhere. So you can quickly see that by your trash cans. And then to your point, let's say this is great, I'm looking for cancel and subscription to happen, but I only want it in the first part of the chat. So now I'm going to write my result or my final query, whatever you guys use. So I'll say result. So notice what it does is it adds the line up above cancel. And in this case, just like I said, the last line in your query is your result line. You'll notice over here it shows you this is the final expression. And what I can do is I can make this one the final by clicking on the link. When I do that, it simply moves it to the bottom. And now I can say, here's my timing query, my timing operator must occur in the first 60 words. What must occur? And I can drag and drop my variable. So this is using two operators, but you do so by using the variable references. So now this is saying, in the first 60 words, look for cancel to. What is cancel to? It's saying it's an and statement that cancel and subscription need to occur within 6 words of each other. So now when I go to test, it's going to apply that logic. You'll notice over here my query text, my last line is saying in the first 60 words, look for cancel to. Cancel to is my and statement of cancel and subscription. I meant to get rid of Office. Maybe I did, I don't recall. And then notice my hits here went from 27 to 5. Because now I'm looking only for those things to hit, those 2 words to hit in the first 60 words of the chat. Does that make sense? Kind of sorted? Need to put your hands on it?
No, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. And then again, if I've said, oh gosh, that's no good, right? First 60 words is no good. I could go ahead and click, well, I could edit this one if I wanted to keep the first. Or let's say I wanted to go back to my 4th version. I could click on the version. I have it highlighted. And then I can click load. And it's going to tell me that it's going to take version 4.4 and it's going to save it and create a new one. So now I go to 0.6 and you'll notice it no longer has the first operator in it. Ran my query, showed me my number of hits, etc. So now if I go to edit mode, then I'll be able to edit this particular query. And once again, I could have stayed on 5 if I wanted to keep the first operator and just change the number of words. It just matters, you know, what happened in your query that you liked or didn't like. I'll delete the office. So now we're back to our one query with 1 line. And let me walk through that process again of adding another line. So I'm going to say this is result. I'm going to add it. Remember, it adds it above all the time. So if I want this to be my final, I can mark it final. And now it drops down below. And let's say, you know, maybe, you know, let's work around this and think about, maybe I want cancel my membership or cancel my subscription. I think this was what someone was getting to as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add membership here. And again, this is one way to write it by using the and statement. I could type in cancel my membership. Again, it's can I get my query specific enough to get the right result set, or am I just trying to use something that is too generic? Just like in audio, the same things can happen. If I'm using a phrase that is too generic, I'm going to get results that do not meet my intent. So understanding that intent is important, and then looking at your result set to see if you're getting those types of calls. Of chats. I appreciate your patience with that. I'm trying real hard to, it's hard to stop talking about calls and audio when you've been doing it for so long. So let's see what we want to do here. I'm going to X subscription out of my final line, because what I want to do is I want to add an or statement, and I'm looking for either membership or subscription. And now in my result doesn't make much sense here, so we're going to actually change the name of it. I can do so by clicking on the edit button, and I could call this whatever. type. So it's either of membership or subscription. And now, again, to edit this, I could click on the edit button. And if I really, if I wanted to stay consistent, right, I could call this result or final, whatever your standards are. And what I can do actually here, I'll show you how I can get here, is I can say this is an and statement, and it's saying that within 6 words of each other, find cancel and type. So now let's look at it and see, read it from the bottom up. So now I'm saying, and within 6 words, find cancel, which is just the word cancel, and type. And type is actually a variable name looking for membership or subscription. So now my results should contain phrase or chats that are saying cancel my subscription or cancel my membership. Let's go ahead and test it and see what happens. So now I'm seeing subscriptions, cancel my subscriptions, and here's cancel the membership. And all it really did was it added two more files that hit on cancel my membership. And here again, I'm just using this as because they're words that I'd seen in the chats. You have to determine from a business perspective, does subscription and membership mean the same thing? If so, I can use it like this. If not, then of course I need to redo my query. Any questions? So here again, if I'm happy with this, I can publish it or I can just close it. If I close it, you'll notice I'll come back to my Getting Started dialog, and now you'll see all of the queries that I've been working on. Again, if I go select another query, this is going to give me the list of everything in progress, meaning the ones that I'm personally working on, or anything that's published, so anything I have access to. And you'll also notice that it will show me what interaction type is it. Is it of audio or of chat? I can also use this particular drop down, the media type, to get only to my chat queries if I want. If I select one, you'll notice I have this CE hold. Let's just see. It's in progress, meaning that I opened it, but I haven't checked it back in. So this is one that was checked in. It's a query I didn't write, I just have access to. And let's say I made some changes and I thought, you know what, I don't want to mess with anybody else's query, but I want to delete it out of my in progress. I don't even want it, I don't want this particular instance. If I discard the changes, all this is doing is it's removing any changes that I've made to that query. It is not deleting the query from Interaction Analytics. It has nothing to do with any of the query that anyone else can see. These were only the changes I was making in my sandbox. So if I say yes, it removed it from my list. But it did not delete anything. And that's kind of a scary thing when you're starting to work on a query that's already been published. When you click discard changes, remember those are the only changes that you have made that haven't been published. So it's not going to impact anyone else. just your list.
And it's fair to say that you could not discard changes on a published query.
That's correct. If I click a published
Okay.
one, discard changes is disabled. Because the only way you can delete queries is from the query manager with the right privileges. So yeah, because that was kind of a scary thing when I see all these published and I'm going, oh, discard changes. What does that do, right? But again, it only affects anything that I have changed and not published. So for example, if that query was on version 2.2, when I said discard changes, now if I went and took it out again, it would be 2.0. I would have discarded my .1 and .2 version of that query. And once I publish it, just like always, it would go to version 3.0. All right.
And Kim,
All
I
right,
just want to
so-
be sensitive to time. I know it's top of
Yep.
the hour. I know that you threatened some homework. I don't know if you've talked about that, but
That's what we're doing now.
okay, perfect.
Yep. All right, so here we are. Again, you can access those queries for our homework. I'm going to minimize this. Is basically what I want you to do is go in and create 2 to 3 queries. Now, I don't want just, general queries. I want you to think about, and again, define what is, because this is where we're going to find any issues that may arise, is define the query, what are you trying to find, and then really go out and use some good phrases to capture those types of results. And then, so 2 to 3 of them, and go ahead and publish them, but do not put them in a session yet. When we come back, and that's something I haven't seen an invite for, Brooke, did we send out, or did we confirm anything for tomorrow for training?
Yes, and did I not forward it to you? Let's just see. I'll do that right now, Kim, if it's not.
Okay, great. Perfect. No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
So excellent. That's good. Tomorrow, then we'll do a Q&A, and we're going to go and review the queries that you guys have written and answer any questions. Now, some of the things that we've seen here today, for example, using of the digits 365, with that not working, you'll have to select queries that are not going to use numbers at this point. But we'll review the queries, answer any questions that you have, and then we're going to go over sessions and session reprocessing, and we'll have homework again, and then we'll go into, on the third session, which has not been scheduled yet, I don't believe, we'll look at analyzing those results, filtering with search, and using those results in reporting. If you guys want to, cover, it'll be search and reporting, but we'll be covering it with your queries, so we can make the determination if that's a session that you want to hold or not. I'm open either way. I would like to, regardless whether or not we choose to go over search and reporting with your results, I would like to hold that session just again. Up. Questions on homework? Shouldn't take too long to do.
So, Brooke, I don't know if this is an issue once things are published, because I haven't tried to publish anything. But this morning, I've been having some problems with attempting to go ahead and save queries. So I'll just mention that. I don't know if we...
Was that
Yeah, we don't
before our Scrum? Because I know that they did some work between our Scrum and this training, and I was just going back in there to see if I was able to save queries.
Sorry,
So
there were a
maybe-
lot of things going on this morning. I might have lost track of some things. So
When you say save queries, do you just mean closing it and then coming back to it?
yeah, they'd be empty.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So that
Yeah, that seems to be working right now. Let me
okay,
just
that's good.
close this one and try to remember what I just worked on, because that is important. So I did subscription, and I'll open it and see if it still opens appropriately. It does.
No, it doesn't. You remove type from it.
No, this one I didn't. This is
Oh.
the one where I put in
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
or statement.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were opening the same one that you... Okay, my apologies.
Oh, no problems, no problems.
So Dick, I would say, yeah, please
Okay, so
send me
it
an
should be-
email, give me a call if you're experiencing any issues. Just let me know.
Yep.
And Kim, I will work with the team on your on the third training around reporting, and we'll get we'll reconvene about a date. I forwarded you the training for tomorrow, so I think
Perfect.
we're in good shape.
Good shape. All right. Well, again, if you have any questions as you're trying to write your query, certainly reach out to Brooke and note anything that you come up with as you're doing it, things you want to either share with the team or questions that you have, because those are great learning opportunities when we get back and actually review and look at the queries and the results.
Are we able to get the deck? Would that help us? Or
Oh, that would be very nice, wouldn't it? Yes, I will. I'll forward it on, because I think I have from the invite. I have everyone that was invited to this meeting, so I'll just forward it to that invite list.
that would be awesome.
Okay, I'll do that right now. You mean you didn't take notes?
No.
That's so old school.
Yeah. Well, you just called me out, because I take notes.
I'm just kidding, and I'm sure Mark did take some, but it's always good. The slides are really helpful. So, thank you, Kim. This was great. Anything else on the Microsoft side before we close up? Let you back to your busy day. Silence is good.
I like silence. Silence is golden.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
Thanks again,
Thanks so much.
Kim.
Have a good
We'll reconvene
Thank you all.
tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Kim.
right,
Okay.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Bye, all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.